plowing and
Ben's out plowing too.
I would imagine so.
Okay.
Let's see.
The only thing is I don't have the agenda in front of me. So let me,
Okay, I'm
I'm just gonna turn it over to you if you've got it in front of
Okay.
you.
welcome everybody to Parks, Trails, Recreation, not official meeting because we don't have a quorum, but so we can discuss a few things. If there's anybody else on, let me see. There's 4 of us.
Jody's the
Yeah,
other one.
that's the other one. Okay. The ordinance for the trail, we were going to review that in line with item number 2, which is discussion of signs to be placed on the trail. Kind of 1, 2, 3, 4 all go together. The ordinance for the trail, discussion on signs, the bollards on the trail, and the review for grants. If we take the ordinance apart, I'm thinking, I got it. Did you guys get the email from Wayne Franzen on, signs should be placed on the trail because of the new ordinance to let people know? And I told him, yeah, that's something that we're going to discuss in our next meeting. The only thing that I can think of in the ordinance, Michelle, do you have that in front of you?
Uh-huh.
All the things, the only thing really that's changed from everybody knowing about the ordinance before has to do with the 50 inches wide.
Mm.
And the bollards are, when we put the bollards up and the time of it from, what is it, 10:30 at night to 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's the only 2 things that I can see that have changed in the ordinance, where we would need to let people know on a sign there by the bollards where the bollards will be. And this, I don't know, I'm getting different people's opinions. I've been researching, how do you have an arm come down from the bollards through Wi-Fi, so that they'll close at 10:30, open at 7. And I don't know if we want to just leave them down in the winter. No snowmobiles go up there because they can't get there that I know of.
Yeah.
I haven't heard any up there.
So where
'Cause
was that? What place exactly was that going to be placed at?
I call it Tullers part of the trail,
Okay.
right there where the sign says avalanche danger and no
Yeah.
campfires. Yeah.
Okay.
I think you need to mention the width length, the new width change too on the sign. No vehicles wider than.
Right. Well, if we did that and referenced, I'm looking for it here, ordinance 11-5-9, then if people want to look it up, they can, and say the 50-inch width and the time, because I imagine somebody might get stuck back up in there. I don't know, but they're going to have to call somebody to let them out or else walk out.
And they'll call me and I'll call you.
And I'll
But
say, walk around and come back tomorrow.
so they could get up, but not back?
Well, that's what Corbett said to me. He said,
If they went up before it closed.
right, and if you fine them,
Oh, yeah.
which is in the ordinance, I don't know, could be revenue for the city, but not that many people. I know who it might offend the most, and it's going to be hunters in the fall,
Mm.
because they're up there at 5 o'clock in the morning,
Oh, okay.
but they won't be anymore.
And they
So,
always take their 4-wheelers up there with all their gear.
Yep. So, they can go up the night before, I guess, and not come down, which is what a lot of them do. They camp up there at the flat part.
But that would be worse than, right? I mean, that's the part we're worried about is the
Yep,
fires or whatever from camping.
yep.
I almost wonder on the opposite side, of the bollards or whatever, if there ought to be a little sign that says, if you get trapped, you know what I mean? If you need
Yeah.
out, please call
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right, there should.
phone number. I don't know whose phone number that's gonna be.
Do you know who the city buys their signs from?
Chief, the fire chief knows. I do not. They've talked about it, but it wasn't a name I was familiar with. Like, it's like a resident in the community who has a business.
Oh,
So-
really? Okay, because when we bought ours for the private road, no trespassing, no soliciting thing,
Yeah.
I copied, oh, what's their names? Oh, Tim, what's his last name? Bought the house where the evacuation road is, off of the back, and I had my,
Shanto.
yeah, Shanto. thanks.
Shanto, yeah, Shanto.
I know how much bollards are. But I know that the city can make them as well, and they wouldn't be expensive. They're about 180 a piece. But then they're gonna have to have something welded for the gate on it. And the reason I'm trying to get all these prices is because the grant application has to be in by the 28th of February. That grant summit thing that I went to, there is the possibility, because we're high altitude, that the grant can be backdated, but I just think it'd be good to have it in by the 28th of February, and then come when the snow melts, we can get the stuff installed. It's 50-50 match for the grants. The one grant,
So
Then I-
50, if the city would do the 150 and then the grant would pay for the other.
yeah,
So just, if you're trying to put the numbers together, just call like Fast Signs or somebody in Orem and get a quote.
okay,
If anything, the city's numbers will be less, right?
okay,
And if the city's
Yeah.
numbers aren't less, we'll get it from the place we got the quote, right?
okay.
So that's what I would do is just call one of the sign places. Even J-Mart in Spanish Fort, do they do signs or do they just do?
Yeah, I think they do signs.
Oh, really?
think so.
Okay,
So it might
Because
be
I think-
better to support someone closer to home.
Oh,
Right.
but I'm not sure if that kind of sign. I was just thinking of those other kind of
Yeah, the banners. I think they do
fabric banners. Yeah, I think that's what it is.
But that you could call them and see if they do them.
I will. Okay, because we
Um,
want metal. And
yes.
all the other stuff, no littering, dog on a leash. I think perhaps all that information can go on the sign that identifies that Eagle Scout project at the top of the trail. Do you know where I'm talking about?
Well,
Mhm.
don't you want like trail rules though, maybe by the big sign that's there?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
And to try to get most of those, I mean, we don't want to look like as many things as we can on one sign.
On one sign, I agree.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's the hard
Um,
part.
I did call Ben Brinley today to ask him where Summit Creek got their gates. I know we're not looking at gates like Summit Creek, but I've been looking on the internet for, how do you time a bar to raise up and down? And there's a lot of information. I've also called a guy who does my maintenance on my condos that I rent, who's a builder. And he said he'd do some research and let me know. There is a good guy in Spanish Fork who, gosh, did all our railing work.
Mhm.
So he might be able to make something. Because what are your thoughts on this bar that's gonna come down at 10:30 at night and go up at 7:30. Hey, Ben, should it just be one? Or should it be like a, let's see, like a greater than sign that comes off of the bar and attaches to the bollard? Because I know in the past, when we just had the chain up there, when we did the water bars, that the motorcycles go underneath.
Are we gonna have a bar or just the foliage?
Well, the bollards are to enforce the width, and the bar is to enforce the timing. If we can pull this off. I'm trying to get as much information as I can and costs so that we can put this in as a grant. And I know somebody too that's willing to donate some money to make the matching funds for the city, should we get the grant. So,
Can we ask for a couple more benches along the way too?
ooh, that's a good idea.
I mean, if
Yeah.
we're filling it out, right? Because
Okay,
one at the very top is nice, but maybe two more, because I think when you and I hiked, there was one, I think there's two more places that are great for benches, right?
yeah, switchback 2 and 4.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so let's add that.
Okay, got it.
And I mean,
Um,
I don't know, you can say for whatever, if you say not for handicapped, but maybe for
Just for rest.
some of
and-
our more senior citizens, so they can
Yeah.
rest. For me, I might
I
need
like
it.
that resting idea.
Resting and pondering.
Yes, we need a pondering spot.
Well, the more we can say it's for safety or for everyone's use,
Right, that's
the
what I
more
was
likely
thinking.
the
Yeah.
grant's gonna be approved. I've never written one before, so I'm gonna need some help over my shoulder, and when I do write it, if you want me to write it,
I can help you.
everybody review. Okay, sweet. Um,
I can write. I'm good at writing.
your dogs are barking.
I put them out because they were bugging me. So they're out at the moment.
So are we in agreement as far as two signs? One at Tullers, where the bollards are, that talks about the ordinance and that it's 50 inches wide and the time of day for use. And then all the other be nice on the trail stuff.
Yeah,
We
say that again
expect-
for me so I can write that down. The one by the Toolers would have the
Hours
hours.
The
That's right.
hours and the 50 inches,
and the width.
yeah,
Okay,
the width.
with limit,
Uh,
okay. And
And then the one by the big sign would be the trail rules.
okay.
Yeah.
That will be more extensive then.
Yeah.
So the one by the Toolers would kind of be a little bit shorter, just,
Yeah,
those
just,
four
one of
things.
those little
yeah,
red and white signs right there.
right. The on
Probably-
metal.
Yep, probably on
Yeah,
the
I'm
post.
trying to remember. Let me look, not that I have to do this right now, but I may have in my Quicken what I paid for our signs. Okay, Ben, you're on, right? Listening
yeah,
probably
yeah.
while you're plowing?
No, I shifted over. I'm
You
not
did.
on duty right now. Yep.
Okay, well, I'm glad you're home safe. I talked with,
don't.
I'm on item number 5 in the agenda now, having to do with the
We're gonna
lighting
have to
ordinance.
move.
I talked with Jody and Wayne at good length, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago. And the issue of there is nothing, I asked for a building packet, so I could look at it to see if there was anything in it about lighting.
Yeah,
And I was told that I had to sign up to get a permit, and they can't just give me a packet. But also was told there's nothing in it having to do with lighting. I'm like, okay,
Who
so
told you that?
Wayne and Jody.
Okay, well, they're both in that regard then.
Jody's not wrong that often.
Can
No,
you,
she's not.
can
But
you
we
look
just-
into that, Ben? And what I was gonna ask you if you could do as well. I keep getting told this, that we can't conflict with international building standards.
Well,
Uh-huh.
that is true, but the International Building Standard is extremely high level, right? And then the National Building Code is more defined, and then the State Building Code is more defined, and then city ordinance is the most strict. And then CCNRs and HOA rules go even further. But there is nothing, as far as I'm aware, and I'll have to confer with Corbett on this, but nothing with the IRC or the IBC, so the International Building Code or the International Residential Building Code, should conflict at all with lighting specifications. Our current building packet talks about, directions, lumens, things of that nature. Now, there was a time it didn't, there was a time it did, and it's flipped back and forth. But currently, Jody and I just looked this up like 4 or 5 months ago to help Jeremy Brockbank identify what his options were for his sports court. And because of the restrictions on him, he opted not to even have lights at all. So I know it's there, but it may be how you phrase the question. I don't know. Asking what you were asking for, that they said there's nothing there. So I'm not, I don't want to speak to completely that they're wrong, but there is
Well,
something there.
the purpose of my question was as a way of enforcing, quote, an ordinance. The ordinance needs to be changed because it's wattage and it doesn't have lumens per acre in it. And if we can get an ordinance changed. But again, how are you going to enforce that? Can't have Craig driving around in the dark. So my thought was, in the building package, yes, people can change their light bulbs afterwards, or they can put in a sports court with lights afterwards. But at least you'd have some criteria during the building process to say, dim it down and face it down. And
Yes.
that's what I was looking for. And I did talk to Corbett about it, and he said, as far as he knew, if we wrote something into the building permit package for lighting, it wouldn't
Mhm.
interfere with IBS, and it would be a way to enforce it. So.
Yeah, correct. I don't think there's anything on lighting, on the IRC or the IBC, simply because it's just way too restrictive for where they are. They sit on more of a structural safety standpoint. Lighting has nothing to do with safety in a residential way.
Okay,
No, I think you've got the right idea there. You hit the nail on the head though. Enforcement's the trouble point, because we only have really 3 points of enforcement for a home, for a structure. And that is occupancy. So before an occupancy permit is granted, we can hold them to compliance. We have teeth in giving them an occupancy permit.
right,
We can have smaller teeth in a point of sell, and we can have even smaller teeth on a point of acquisition. But really, our real only point of enforcement is on the building permit, the occupancy permit standpoint. So this will be tricky, because I know, like, the house across the street from me is this beautiful young or old lady, and she is just a doll. I love her to death, but she's concerned because she's a widow, and she's concerned with her safety, and she feels safer with lights on all night long, and they're bright, and like, I'm not going to complain about it, right? I don't care about my dark skies as much as I do her safety, right? So,
okay,
and so how also would we even enforce that? She's not leaving until she passes. So we can't even put a lien or anything on her, which frankly I would fight tooth and nail against. But really, I think you're spot on. If we can put something in the ordinances for the building code so that it's in the packet it specifies there, then we're good. We're still gonna have problems with the jellyfish lighting people are putting up right now that
Yeah.
are just so stinking bright. I don't think there's any way we can enforce anything on that regard because people will just get the warning or the note or the threats, and they'll, if they're really, you know, upright, they'll do something. But most people we've viewed here, not most, that's me being hyperbolic, but a lot of them are understand that they are not, it's non-enforceable for the most part. So they just ignore them. So,
Right, well, if they look at it from the standpoint of, you know, the disturbing the peace after 10:30, people's welfare, I looked that up once, what disturbing the peace meant, and it divided it out in 3 categories, and one of them was welfare, I think. You know, it's just being a nice neighbor, you know, if they're talked to nicely about it, and like you say, though, how are you gonna enforce it? And for your widow across the street, yeah, I turn my lights on in the back every once in a while just to see what's out there.
yeah, exactly.
Not that I do anything, or what would I do, but anyway.
Yeah.
Can I leave, can we as a committee leave that with you, Ben, to
The building
see-
code standpoint, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah, and then we can talk about at our next meeting what we might propose as an ordinance for review for planning on lighting, and also what would be included in the building permit package that would be in keeping with dark sky, dim it down, point it down, except for flagpoles.
Thank you.
Yeah. That'd be great. Well, I will get together figures on the information that we need for the signs and the bollard and the bar and the, I don't know, did you hear that conversation, Ben, about?
Yeah,
how
I
to-
did.
Okay, maybe from your building standpoint, you may know something too. I'm doing a lot of research, but I'm not really coming up with what I want. Perhaps
Mhm.
I'm not specific enough in my Google search, but I think I am. So I've reached out to a few people. I reached out to Ben at Summit Creek, just about where they got their gates from, in terms of what be able to talk to them. Not that kind of gate, we don't want that, but, and a builder that I know, to try to get some information so we can put together some figures for the grant. I will have those figures together. I'll give myself a timeline here. What is today, the 17th? I'll have those by 1/24. Just so we can start to write the grant, because the deadline is February 28th. Ben, do we have to have permission, we meaning PTR, from the city council to apply for a grant?
Yes,
You have to have
Well-
permission or just keep them informed.
technically, no, because right? Correct me, Janet, but well, technically not right now because we haven't put that through.
It's not like official yet. And the question I was telling Sherry, the concern that some people have raised is that, you know, if there's a tight time crunch and you have to put it before the council, you know, you got to have time. You can't miss the deadline because you haven't taken it to city council. And so that was one of the things that we talked about, was that, you know, you may have to ask for forgiveness. Like if you're on a tight time crunch, you still apply, but then you still want to make a presentation to the city council and just let them know that, hey, we're in the process of applying for this grant. We had a tight deadline we had to meet. And the reason they want to know, Sherry, is because a lot of them have matching funds, right? Requirements. And so that's why city council and the city want to know who's applying for what, because they don't want the city committed to something where we have to have $50,000 in funds to match and we don't have it in the budget. So
Right.
that's why that requirement, that's why they're talking about it. It's not approved yet, but that's where we're at on that. Right, Ben?
Yeah, I think so. I think with tight ones, I think the process is just call the mayor and run it past him. But Janet hit the nail on the head with everything else.
Okay. All right, well. Is that
it's an
something you
in-kind
want
match,
me to
it's
do?
fine.
Huh?
If it's an in-kind match, like if it's labor, we can
Well,
get
I
that.
know we can do that for part of it, but I'll have to look back through my notes and the brochures that I have. So much of it has to be held in reserves. I think it's 10%, and X amount has to be in cash. From what I was told at this DNR seminar that I went to.
Okay.
So, okay. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to bring up?
No,
If you,
Just though Natalie told us that there was another avalanche.
Yep. She
I just
didn't
talked to
know,
Jody about that, and Carrie knows.
Jody knows.
Okay,
I asked Natalie, because she was up there snowshoeing, I guess she was snowshoeing. I don't think she was just running, although knowing Natalie. she
knowing
might-
Natalie, she could.
She looked up towards the geofence and couldn't tell if it was up or down because it was buried. So,
Gotcha.
but
in
the
the
avalanche,
last newsletter, sorry to interrupt. In the last newsletter, Carrie did mention, because I actually read it today. Did you guys read it? It was
Yeah,
really good.
yeah.
She said, if you're going up on the switchbacks, to be really careful because there's a high potential for avalanche.
Yeah,
Oh,
So that's
good.
it was a
good.
good warning.
So maybe if Michelle, because, or whoever, who saw the avalanche?
Natalie
wasn't-
Tanner.
Natalie. So maybe, I don't know if Natalie's a poster, but it might be nice if she had maybe a picture of it or something, if she could just post it on the community page and just say, hey guys, just a heads up, there's
Right.
an avalanche up on the switchbacks.
okay. Michelle, do you want to ask her to do that, or do you want me to?
Posted on where?
The
On the
community
community
Facebook
page.
page?
That
Yeah.
same
Woodland
that
Hills
we,
community page.
yeah, Woodland Hills community page. Okay.
Just where she had, I just think maybe it'd be good where she was there and she saw it, if she could just
Yeah,
post something and say, hey guys, just, heads up.
She said
Oh,
it wasn't as bad as the last one.
Yeah.
She was
Oh,
able to
good.
get around it and
Yeah.
go up to
but
the
we're just
top. So,
continuing to get more snow, so who knows, right?
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
it's
let her
heavy
also-
snow.
Yeah, let her also know that, for anything like this, anything that's basically not fire or water, emergency wise, the best person to contact is Carrie Malkovich.
Okay,
Yeah, she's emergency manager.
yeah, and now, and Carrie already posted about it, so.
She,
Oh, she
Perfect.
did?
Oh,
Okay,
no,
good.
she posted about the warning, but
yeah, she
Natalie
posted
says-
about the potential. for
That's
one.
right, and Natalie says that now it's happened, so, okay, I will talk to Natalie.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Any other business? Other than the next meeting would be on the 21st of February? Is there anything else we need to discuss or plan? Hopefully we'll get the minutes approved in February.
It'll be okay. We didn't have, we had long breaks over the holidays, and so now we're like approving financials from the fall. We just did that on Tuesday. So
So
it's
isn't
okay.
it, are these minutes official here today, or are we just approving the ones from October?
No,
We
we're
can't
not,
approve,
we can't.
and
Yeah,
these
so
ones
I
will
just
be
took-
official.
Okay, I just took notes, but I don't need to send those out. We're still gonna just be going from the October ones.
No, you'll have to
Yeah.
send these ones too, I think.
No, today's
not-
not an official meeting. We don't have a
Okay.
quorum.
Okay,
No, we don't have a quorum. We're
okay,
just,
so I suggest that we,
Just two of you.
I suggest that we send out though the notice, at least the time and the date for the next meeting ASAP. So that people can plan ahead a little bit. And what time did you want to do that February 21st? What time is that? Will that be 6 or 7?
Probably 6,
Okay,
just to
so
be
I'll
safe.
send that out right away. That way they can plan ahead.
Also, when we start late, Jody has to hang around to start the meeting. You know?
Yeah. Yeah,
So if we can start at 6,
Oh,
that's. the
that's a
time
good
she
idea.
usually- She
Yeah,
usually goes home. That way she's not having to hang around and wait.
right, okay, all right. So do you want to say that we're going to do 6 PM going forward or not? Or we could discuss that at the next meeting.
Yeah, we could just make sure it works for everybody.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
Another,
we'll just,
even maybe a better option is if somebody could meet with Jody, and Jody, if you're listening, you can chime in on this, but if somebody wants to meet with Jody and learn
That would
how
be
to
me.
do all the recordings, that would be even better.
Well, that would probably be me because I have to do finance too. I'm usually the one that starts the finance.
Yeah,
So,
that'd be awesome. If we could just cut Jody out of this, then we can send her home. That'd be great.
yeah,
yeah.
okay,
So,
I'll reach out to her.
that work, Jody?
And I've made it, yeah, and I've made it so there's a laminated piece back by the computer, which gives all the instructions on how to do it.
Oh,
Oh, perfect.
So I did that in case something ever happened to me, you guys would have it and know how to get into the account, have all the instructions, and it's pretty self-explanatory, I hope.
well, nothing better ever happened to you or we are lost. Just saying.
That's the truth.
We need you.
Well, thanks, but it's there. So if you need to get into it, hopefully we'll do a rundown with everyone though once, and then hopefully if there's anything missing from the instructions, we can make it, different, change it, get it so
Oh,
everyone
you're
can
awesome,
understand.
Jody, thank you.
You're
All right.
welcome.
I would just say good job to Ben and Sherry for getting the ordinance passed and all the hard work and meeting with Wayne and everything to get it
Yeah.
done.
yeah.
No, it was your vote, Janet. That was the clincher.
I was the tiebreaker.
Didn't everybody vote in favor of it? That's what I was
Hey,
told.
Sherry, don't bring that up. This is about making Janet feel good.
Whatever. Yes, everybody voted for that one. I've been the tiebreaker on a few other things that weren't very fun, but not that one.
And Janet, if you can let me know what our budget is, and it does run through June, I think, is that right? The year,
Yeah.
what we have, just in helping think about the grant and also donations from private people to make this happen.
10 was budgeted. We haven't spent any, have we?
No?
Okay.
Nope.
I think so.
So we have 10,000? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Did we
And
just
then-
spend it on salt?
We might have.
Hey, move it from another line.
Maybe one thing to put on the agenda for next time too is I know we didn't do it this year, and I understand why, but maybe we could talk about the tree lighting at Christmas time party. Maybe we could talk about that a little bit. It's been thrown out there that maybe we could, and it would probably be our committee, because I certainly couldn't do it by myself, but that maybe we could, instead of having Santa go around on the fire truck, which I know people like, maybe we do both, I don't know, but they talked about having Santa at the park and kind of having like a community event at the park and maybe a tree lighting ceremony. And the mayor really wants an ice skating rink up there someday.
Well-
And he wants, to sell hot cocoa and, the whole thing. But maybe we can toss that around and talk about it a little bit. That might be something to work on.
I think it's a great idea, and it's definitely doable because it's so flat. And it wouldn't be in the way of what we're thinking about for pickleball and basketball, because it would be more,
It's over on the field. Yeah.
yeah,
Where
yeah.
the barricades were during, when we had it all barricaded off, it'd be over in there.
That would be cool.
And maybe we should kick around what that would cost to like frame it in and grade it. I know there was talk about all the sprinklers needed to be replaced by some, I can't
Oh,
remember the
yeah.
guy's name, over there across from Brett Iverson. Looking in
Stout?
a grant for that money too, to create, what would that cost to level it out more and flood it and maintain it? Somebody's gonna have to shovel it or snow blow it or something.
Gonna need a Zamboni.
We'll need a Zamboni, we'll need chillers. There's a lot that we need to make that one happen. So I think grants is the way to go.
Okay,
Yeah. And then
Well-
one more thing. I got one more thing.
okay.
We need to take the lights down at the roundabout.
I agree.
I mean, I'm okay
can we
with kind
do-
of leaving them up through January because January is kind of dreary, and so I don't mind a little bit of cheer. But right now, my son's working a lot of shifts, and every time that I've had time, nobody else has been home to help me lug that big hefty